Do you have an old multi-effects unit that's suffering from bad IRs? Well, today we're gonna see if we can bring them back to life using a JOYO Cab Box. What's up everybody, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Taylor, and I do all sorts of guitar related stuff like this. On my channel. If that's something you enjoy, make sure to subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of my uploads. You guys have been asking me to review some JOYO products on this channel for a really long time. So recently I got in touch with JOYO and asked them if they wanted to do a collaboration video, and they agreed to send me some stuff, and one of the things they sent me was a cab box. This little guy right here. Now before this, I haven't really used anything like this. I mean, I've used IRs in post and through computer software and stuff like that, but I've never had a dedicated IR loader. And I can tell you after playing around with this one, that this thing is definitely worth it if you have some gear that doesn't have power amp and cabinet simulation that you want to be able to run directly into a computer or a pair of studio monitors, or even like an 𝗵𝗵𝗹𝗶 speaker or something like that. This definitely does the trick, and it also has a ton of features, and a lot of these features actually came in handy when I was making this video. You have a balanced output, you have a ground lift switch, on the top you have an input and a through, which is awesome if you want to use the cab box to go to front of house, but you also want to be able to run your preamp signal through into a power amp and a cabinet. You have a micro USB port for connecting to your computer and updating the cab box, as well as loading your own custom IR files onto it. There's a headphones output and then a 1/4 inch output. On the other side over here you have a MIDI in connection if you want to connect this to something and have it controlled via MIDI. Then on the front of the unit you have a small LCD screen, you have a master volume knob, you have your selection knob, which you can also press in to select different effects and parameters. You have a bank up and a bank down switch, which can be pressed at the same time to bypass the unit. You have a knob that will take you into the power amp section to allow you to switch out the tubes or control different power amp parameters. You have the cab mic knob, which will take you into the cab mic section and allow you to pick your IR as well as control mic parameters for the built-in cab IRs. You have an EQ button to control the global EQ of the pedal, which also has a high and a low pass. You have a save button to save your presets, and you have a home button that you can hold to get into your MIDI settings. Now I've made a few different videos with my 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲 Pro, and every time I make one, I always get comments from people telling me that they still use it, they just use it in conjunction with a cab loader like this in the effects loop. So what we're gonna do today is hook up the cab box into the effects loop of my 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲 Pro, and we'll load up a few of the different cabinets as well as some third-party IRs to see how they compare to the stock IRs in the 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲 Pro. And then we'll also use the cab box in conjunction with maybe some older gear, as well as maybe some pedals, to see how well it works when paired with different types of gear. All right, with all that said, let's get over to the video. Okay guys, I'm here with my Jackson Kelly. There's an EMG 81 in the bridge and an 85 in the neck. First up, we have the 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲, and the 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲 has an effects loop, so we have the cab box hooked up in the effects loop. So let's set up a patch. So I'm creating an effects loop block in the 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲, and you wanna make sure to put that after the amp. Yeah, you don't want to put it before the amp. Now the 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲 is a perfect candidate for using the cab box on because the cabinet emulation in the 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗲 is not very good. Let's set up an amp here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I can get my hand out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. You know what, I'm feeling a Brit today. Let's go with the Brit 2204. This is based off a Marshall JCM 800, the 2204 edition. Okay, to be honest with you, it really doesn't sound that bad, just loaded up stock there. I should also mention that I have this boosted with a tube screamer. That's probably important. Let's go in here and select the preamp version of that same amp and make sure to turn the cab off. We're gonna go over here, turn the effects loop on. I want to try dialing in one more amp here before we switch over to another modeler. One of my all-time favorites, the 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗲 or 5150. Another really cool thing about the JOYO Cab Box is there is a built-in EQ section, which is really awesome, especially if you're using it in conjunction with a modeler that does not have a global EQ. This could be really, really handy. So let's go into the EQ section here. There we go, it's coming to life now. Okay, so we have the low pass set up at about 7,000 hertz and the high pass set at around 85. Everything else is mostly flat, and this is what the 𝗵𝗵𝗹𝗶 or 5150 sounds like in the Pod HD with the Cab Box and the ML Sound Labs Mesa 4x12. That is a lot of stuff to say. Alright, to me that sounds really awesome and infinitely more inspiring than any of the cabinets that come with the Pod HD Pro. And the really nice thing about running the Cab Box through the effects loop on something like the Pod HD is it's only taking up one block and you can still run effects after the Cab IR that you normally would run in post, like reverb and delay. Let me give you an example. I have a low res delay set up on this one. Let's turn that on. Yeah, pretty awesome. But let's say you don't have a modeler as new as the HD Pro. Let's say you're rocking something as old as a Pod 2.0. Let's hook that up and see what we can get out. All right, and we're back with what might be one of the ugliest color combinations in history. But what does it sound like? Let's find out here. Okay, so we have the Pod 2.0 hooked up, and the way that we have to run this, since there's no effects loop, is we're going directly from the output of the Pod 2.0 into the input of the Cab Box, and from the output of the Cab Box into my audio interface that's over there. We're on the Mesa dual rectifier setting, we have a boost engage, and we have the cabinet off, and here's what it sounds like. All right, there's a lot of low end there, just like on an actual Mesa dual rectifier. So let's dial this a little bit. Really doesn't sound that bad. Here, for comparison, let's hear what the cabinet emulation sounds like in the Pod 2.0, and that way you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So to bypass this pedal, you have to press in both these buttons at the same time, which is a little tricky when it's not on the floor. Here's the closest thing that the Pod 2.0 has for comparison. Let's check out some of the other stock cabinets that come in the Cab Box. For those of you who don't have IRs in your library and would just be using the stock ones, I'm sure you want to hear what the stock cabinets sound like. So let's go with a Recto Standard. Swap out the microphone on this guy. You know, I think I like the SM57 best on this cabinet. Go figure. So far the stock cabinets sound pretty good. Let's try that 𝗵𝗲𝗍 Traditional. I'm assuming that's what the S and T stand for. Here's the Recto Traditional. I don't like the traditional as much. I'm gonna stick with the standard on this one. That's more of the sound that I'm used to out of my own 𝗵𝗲𝗍 standard 4x12 cabinet. Okay, this is all fun and great, but what if you don't have a modeler? What if you just have a pedal that you really like to use as a preamp? Let's plug a pedal directly into the cab box and see what kind of tones we can get out of it there. But what pedal? Okay, so I'm here with a Metal Zone plugged directly into the cab box. You might be asking yourself, why would you plug a Metal Zone into the cab box when you have these other pedals back there that would probably be better? I like to have fun on my channel, and this will either be fun or cringe-inducing. I'm not really sure which, but let's do it. Doesn't sound that bad. Let's tweak some stuff and see what we get. It really doesn't sound that bad. I think the thing that you have to remember with a Metal Zone is, number one, it has tons of gain, so it's really important to dial back on that if you want any sort of clarity out of the pedal at all. And it's also really tricky to dial in all the tone knobs as well as the mid sweep frequency. And moving the knobs just a little bit can have pretty dramatic results. So, you know, as long as you keep all that in mind and you just have a little bit of patience with it, you get a pretty decent tone out of it. let's change some of the settings on the cab box here real quick. Okay, so I went a little bit more dramatic with my high and low pass here. Not by much, just by a little bit. The low pass I took down to 5.6 Hz, and the high pass I bumped up to 105, and this is what it does. I really don't think this is a bad tone. So maybe you have a distortion pedal that you absolutely love and you want to be able to record it direct with a bunch of the different features that the cab box offers, like different power tube emulation, different cabinets, the ability to load your own custom IRs, the ability to have a really flexible graphic EQ section with high and low pass filters, a ground lift switch. I think the cab box really offers quite a bit of features for something that is just meant to be loading IRs. And I also think it punches well above its weight in terms of price for the features that it has in it. All right, let's cut back over to me sitting over there. All right, what do you guys think of the cab box? What are some of your favorite IR loaders? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much to my patrons. And if you're interested in helping support the channel and helping me to continue to create videos like this, hit up my Patreon via the link in the description below. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.